Hello guys, Brad here again with another fragrance video. Today I thought what I would do is talk about the different types of compliments or feedback that we can get from a fragrance. Now I broke down this into 5 separate categories. There might be more. Feel free to leave your comments in the section down below. Maybe we have a good discussion or even maybe response video to this topic. I don't think anybody's really broken down feedback like this before. Okay, so the 5 different types of feedback and compliments we can get. The first one would be the unsolicited compliment. Basically, this is the best form of the compliment. Basically, you wear a fragrance, and for whatever reason, it just brings up maybe a scent memory or just a chemical response in the brain that makes the woman or man very excited, and he just like says, "That smells great. What is that? Where can I get it? You should wear that more often. I really like that one." This is also known as like the panty dropper fragrance because people supposedly think that if it smells that great, you're going to automatically have sex with a person. That's a very debatable uh, thing. I think it would be like saying if you give somebody a beer, will they have sex with you? Kind of like that. It's kind of like, there's a little bit of a chemical response there, but not, something that's going to make you do something that you wouldn't have done anyway. So the unsolicited compliment, just, loving a fragrance just for the pure enjoyment of that scent and telling somebody that you like it with no, you know, second thought whatsoever. The second one is called the solicited comment. Now, this is one that you see all the time in YouTube videos. Jeremy's videos, uh, anybody that's ever done a video where they've put their forearm under a girl's nose and basically demanded a response. Now, the problem with this is that you're basically putting that person on the spot. I'm sure most of the time they're being honest. They'll either like it or not like it. But the problem is that if you force somebody to give you a response, that doesn't necessarily mean that they would give that same response without the pressure. Like, for example, uh, if you wear a fragrance that smells nice but nothing outstanding, a girl might say, "Well, yeah, that smells pretty good. I like that one." But if she just smelled it on you and like you're at work, she might not say anything because it just smells nice, but it doesn't really, bring her to that point where she feels like she has to say something. So I think mostly the solicited compliments come from fragrances that are just fresh and clean. And if she smells something that smells really great, like a Ventus or something like that, she might really say something special about that fragrance. But for the most part, I think if you get a solicited compliment because you force it upon that person, the fragrance might necessarily be as good as you would think. Kind of like if you cook somebody dinner and they say, "That was great. Thanks for cooking me dinner." Or, you cook somebody dinner and say, "What did you think of dinner?" Now all of a sudden the person's on the spot. Are they going to say, "Ugh, I didn't really like that meal you cooked for me"? They're probably going to say, "Yeah, it was a good meal. Thanks." So that's kind of how it is with fragrances. You put somebody on the spot, there's probably more pressure to say something nice about that fragrance. Now, the third one isn't really about compliment. It's just negative feedback, the negative complaint. This happens a lot whenever you wear a fragrance that's either too strong, or this can happen a lot with niche fragrances or independent fragrances, fragrances that can be very polarizing. Like, for example, one day I wore Kerosene's Black Vines to work, and a girl I was working with couldn't stand the smell of black licorice. And she was like, "Ugh, what is that? Is that licorice? I hate licorice." That can happen. Uh, Whenever you wear fragrances for the sake of reviewing or as a hobby, like I do a lot, you wear a fragrance just for the review. It can be very polarizing. It can have a lot of notes in there, like licorice or civet, um, harsh leathers, things oud, that things that might not go over well with the general public. So expect negative compliments or complaints, feedback sometimes. Now, the fourth one, I call this one the backhanded compliment. This is kind of like a little bit of good and the bad. This happened to me recently. I was wearing Versace's Dylan Blue to work. A guy was like, "Are you wearing the whole bottle? Smells like you took a bath in your cologne." And he's like, "Smells good though." So you got, you're wearing too much cologne, but it smells good. So that's a tough one to break down sometimes. Did the person tell me I smell good to make me feel better about being embarrassed because I wore too much cologne? So what was the motivation for that? But that one kind of leaves you feeling a little bit confused after the fact, because you're like, okay, so I wore too much cologne, but it smells good. Maybe I'll wear it again, but not as much. Or maybe it will still be too strong. So you're not sure what to do about that. So that can happen sometimes. And the last one, number 5, I call this praise as manipulation compliment. This is sometimes confused with the unsolicited compliment, but sometimes there can be an underlying motivation to give a compliment. I think a good example of this is if you go to a restaurant and the waitress tells you you smell good. Hey, that smells great. You smell great. Is she just trying to grease you up for a bigger tip? Or did she really say that because you smell great? I mean, if she would have seen you in a restaurant, if she would have been a customer in a restaurant, been at the grocery store, passed you by in the hallway or on the elevator, would she have said the same thing? Maybe, maybe not. So you have to look at the motivating factor sometimes. This can happen maybe for a boss, and somebody's wanting a promotion. Maybe, they're starting to tell you smell nice, before they ask for a raise, So sometimes there's underlying motivations for that. So those are 5 things I came up with about compliments and feedback on fragrances. Um, so I remember recently on Facebook, someone was like, "All compliments are good." In a way, they are, but sometimes you got to think about it too. Um, they can be a little bit overrated in some regards. You know, if you're a type of person like me that really likes to wear the best fragrances to get compliments, you have to really know what is going on in the minds of people before you make your final decisions about what fragrance to buy. So those are my thoughts on that. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.